10 years ago, we uploaded a video to YouTube called Creating the Ultimate Golf GTI. We did a reflash, added a muffler, some fake wheels, and some Altezza lights. And for that, we are truly sorry. So now, a decade on, we've decided to come back and do it again properly. This is the Ultimate Golf Supercar project. It was 2009 that I bought my first performance Volkswagen in the guise of a Mark IV GTI, and I had high hopes for that car, but little did I know at the time that it was the least respected performance Volkswagen in the entire range. But still, my friend Marty and I set to work to try and make the ultimate Golf. We added some wheels, we added a tune, we added some Altezza style lights and some angel eye headlights. It was absolutely horrific. So, how do we go about doing it again and turning a Golf into something that would actually rival the performance of a supercar? Well, we're doing it with a whole new platform, and that is the Mark VII Golf R. Now, I picked this one up secondhand. This is a 2015 model, and it was one of the cheapest ones that was for sale on the internet. Why? Because it's a Wolfsburg model. Now, some of you might go, wait on, the Wolfsburg is the special one from Wolfsburg with all the extra special stuff. But no, in this case, it meant the Haldex was completely flogged, so it was only front wheel drive. The tyres were flogged, the battery didn't work, the start button didn't work, and for some reason, the previous owner had repinned the stereo so none of the speakers were actually working. Who knows why? It's an absolute mystery. But now we have this car to create our Golf Supercar project. So let's have a quick look at the Mark VII Golf R. Like most Volkswagens, the Golf R is very unassuming, and you wouldn't be wrong in thinking, is this car actually even fast? Especially compared to its all-wheel drive rivals, the Focus RS, WRX and even the Evo. But this is what makes it an amazing platform for an epic sleeper. You've got class-leading interior, and being a Wolfsburg model, a bunch of fancy black bits and technological driving assistance. But underneath the bonnet is where it starts to get a bit more exciting, with a turbocharged inline 4-cylinder 2-litre engine sending power to all four wheels when you need it via an updated Haldex 4Motion system. This is the DSG model, which means it's faster than the manual because the computers can change gears faster than you can. It's all very balanced, minimal, serious and understated, so it's time to fix that with some supercar spec performance. Now, when we're talking about doing the ultimate Golf supercar project, what does that actually mean? Well, by supercar, our goal is to do 11-second quarter miles and 0 to 100 in the 3-second range, which would make this one of the quickest street legal cars that we've ever done on Mighty Car Mods. So, that's the plan. Let's get to it. The first thing we're doing is a baseline power figure for the stock car. We're doing 3 back-to-back runs on the dyno to make sure everything is up to temperature. And we've ended up with an impressive 180 kilowatts at all 4 wheels. With that done, it's time to begin the transformation of this humble little Golf. We met a couple of guys at a meet recently, and they said, hey, we can come and help you with your Golf. So we were like, hey, come visit the shed. And they said, actually, they work at a place out in Castle Hill called Hill's Euro House that does, believe it or not, based on the name, they modify European cars.
And it's house built. HAUS, of course.
That's right,
yeah.
It's the German sausage style. So they said, if you want, you can come out here. Now, the place is actually closed this weekend, so I do believe that we are sneaking in for a couple of
sneaky spanners.
Left here. A couple of sneaky spanners. So we're going to go there. They're going to give us a hand. And Martin, we're doing this very quickly. In 24 hours time, which is or less actually, like 16 hours of work, this car will be supercar fast.
Supercar fast?
Supercar fast.
It's redonkulous.
It's absolutely yes, this one in here. So that's the plan. We're going to meet the dudes now, and I don't know if they've told their boss or if they haven't told their boss. All they said is that the shop's closed and that we can use it on the weekend.
They didn't really go into detail about that. So are your bosses cool with it?
Here we go.
Dude, it's full of BMWs and VWs and stuff. Things with W's at the end.
Hill's Euro House. There it is, Martin. Performance, tuning and enhancement. Just exactly what we want. So here we are, this is Hill's Euro House, where we've snuck in on... Hello? Oh, here he is. This is the horseman himself. Hey Jackson, how are you, man?
Hey, man. Good.
So this is Jackson. We met him at a meet recently, and he's the one that said he can help me with my golf, which I imagine is going to look like something like this. Paul, yeah? Paul. So, and Martin. Anyway, so these are the boys that we met at a meet, and they were like, hey, we can help make your car go fast. And so that's what we're going to do today. Before the bosses find out that we're here.
Euro sausage. Did you say secret golf handshake?
Everyone's got to shake hands like this. You got to have your...
Through your pants.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. It's
Actually?
Yeah.
It's legit?
Yeah. Merry Golfmas, man.
Really? That's is that seriously the...
Hey man, how you doing?
I can't get in there. Hang on. Is it actually a secret golf handshake?
Yeah, 100%.
Golf. That's the best thing I've ever seen.
Really? Yeah, 100%. It's a golf thing.
Now that I've learned the all-important secret golf handshake, now it's time to check out the mods that are going on the car. So everybody has been saying I should do a stage 1 or a stage 2 or a stage whatever. You know how we feel about those. We're actually not doing any stages. We're going beyond that to unlimited power. This is a Revo kit. Actually, it's 2 kits, a performance pack and a power pack. Now, a performance pack, just so I can get my head around this, is intercooler piping, intake,
Tune,
and TCU tune for the DSG.
Yeah.
And then the power pack is that, but then we're also adding on...
a turbo,
Yep.
and a turbo muffler delete.
Right, okay.
And then we're going even further beyond that.
Yeah, we're going to the stars and back. So we're
it.
not just doing the turbo, the intake, the exhaust, all that kind of stuff as well. Then we're also going engine mounts, fuel pumps, wheels, brakes, braided lines, exhaust, the works burger. And what kind of power should we be expecting to making from all of this?
Look, depending on fuel quality and the dyno, anywhere between 470 and 500 horsepower.
From a 2 litre?
From a 2 litre.
Okay.
Rule of thumb is generally about 500 horse. If you get a massive good batch of V85, 520, 530.
Okay.
So, and it'll still drive like stock if you needed to.
Wow. And so unlike the other projects we've seen, you've seen the other Mighty Car Mods projects we've done where we're putting in crazy engines and things that aren't meant to fit. This here is kind of meant to be like Lego, right?
Like this does literally just bolt in.
Wow. How long is it going to take to do all of this? You'll have obviously yourself and Paulie there, and then Marty and I as your apprentices who have not done this before.
If it was me and Paul, probably like a day and a half. With you guys, maybe 2. So we'll just.
All right, cool. Well, I guess we just bring the car in and just get to it.
Yeah, let's just get stuck into it, man.
Hashtag badge power. The plan is to drive out of here tomorrow with a really fast car. But will it actually bolt on? Can I chop Marty's Evo? And will we smoke a supercar? There's only one way of finding out.
Have you ever owned an Evo by any chance?
I have.
What kind of Evo did you own?
I was a 7.
How much power did it make?
Not enough. 220?
220? Did you ever have to do any like transfer cases or gearboxes or anything?
Not yet.
Was it awesome?
And that's when one of the owners of the shop turned up.
That's your boss. Does he know that we're...
No.
Hey mate, how you doing?
Not really, yeah.
We're just talking about Evos. We're just come down here to talk about Evos.
Oh, hey. Oh, hey, mate.
We decide to exit while Paulie explains what's going on, and luckily he's all good with it, because it's not an Evo. With that smoothed over, now we can get back to work, once I get my special Volkswagen gloves on. Man, they said you have to wear gloves because it's working on a European car. Have you noticed on YouTube videos guys working on European cars wear this? I thought it was to protect their hands, but it's actually to protect their car. True.
It's to keep the handshake safe, man.
The first step, of course, is to jack up your car. Then I'm going to disconnect the steering column and remove the wheels. And I lasted about 2 minutes in the special Euro gloves. I've just been spotted without my special gloves on and I'm getting busted. I actually have to wear these?
All the time.
Really?
Yeah, you're not working on the car if you're not wearing them.
these wheels won't be going back on the car, so that's the first factory part officially gone. Now that the car's up in the air, we can investigate underneath. So what are we seeing under here, Jackson? And is there anything that your automotive archaeology can point us towards?
There is. You can see like a couple white stains just here.
Yeah.
As well as this clip not being put back in, which is just someone being lazy.
Okay.
But generally with these Mark 7s, they have water pump bolts. But yeah, it's obviously been done, which is good because it means we don't have to do it.
So what's the next step now? Subframe?
Yeah, just got the subframe out, man. We'll just drop that and get into it.
Cool.
Our next step is to remove the front subframe and the factory exhaust, which we'll be replacing entirely. We are getting heaps done, but of course there's always going to be a comment from the Evo owner when you least expect it, need it, or even want it.
What a freaking ugly engine that is, man. There's nothing pretty about that whatsoever. It's all business, all sausage.
All Evo
It's
chopping
all
goodness,
sausage
mate.
and no sizzle,
Yes,
mate.
all Evo chopping goodness.
That's all. That's
you don't
its
need to
whole
be
purpose.
pretty to chop an Evo, Martin.
100%.
Do you?
Well, you're not pretty and you probably will chop it.
Oh, that was rough.
Next up, it's time to say Auf Wiedersehen to the factory airbox and intake.
So this is the OEM airbox in here. This is getting replaced with the Revo Carbon Series intake and a Pro panel filter to get more air to the turbo faster. It's a bigger box, also has piping, 16% bigger if you're wondering. So that is going to be replacing that and making sure that our aftermarket turbo can gulp up all the air that it needs.
It seems word is out because the other boss has dropped by to see what is going on in his shop.
Everybody, this is Oscar. He is the owner, co-owner with your brother, who we met earlier, of Hill Zero House in Castle Hill. Thanks for having us down, by the way. No one's getting fired on Monday or anything?
No, they're all good.
What do you guys do here? Like, you make fast European cars? Is
Pretty
that
much,
your thing?
pretty much, yeah. We look after it, we make them fast, we make them look good.
Well, thanks so much for being cool with
problem.
us, coming down and
No
using the
problem.
space.
I
And
appreciate
we'll try and be gone by Monday morning
worries,
when you open again.
Yeah, that's
right?
it, awesome.
Man, thank you so much for having us down
Thank
here.
you,
And
cheers.
yeah, feel free to drop in and
Will
come
do.
get a tofu roll with us or something.
No worries, mate. Cheers.
Thanks,
thank you.
man. See ya.
With that all sorted, now we can take off the factory exhaust and wish it bon voyage, or whatever the German equivalent is for that.
I've undone all that now anyway, so there's that clamp there.
Yeah,
Is
it's just
that a
the-
V-band up there?
Yeah, just pop it over.
Yep.
Factory V-bands.
Factory V-band, that's the way.
And then we'll just wiggle this out. In a twisting motion.
There it is. Gonskis.
There's your cat.
Exhaust off. Is the turbo coming off next? Turbo's coming off next. Yes. So this Golf actually has a plastic sump, which a lot of modern cars seem to have these days, and it also has a plastic sump plug, which is basically this little plug here with an O-ring on it, and instead of having thread on it, you put this special vag insertion tool in the back, like this, give it one twist, and out it comes. And these, I guess you replace these, right? Like when after you service the car. So I am going to insert the vag removing tool into the vag plug, give it one twist, and then there it goes. That is efficient.
That is very efficient.
And I mean, this car is obviously all about efficiency. So we're going to drain this, then obviously drain coolant as well, because they're the two lines going into the turbo. Then turbo can come off, compare it with the new turbo, put that turbo back on, redo the fluids, skids.
These engines respond really well to performance tunes, but if you really want to make the most out of it, then you need to upgrade the turbocharger. And once you're going faster with more power, then other aspects of the car should be looked at also, like the brakes. The factory brakes are great for stopping on factory power, but in our case, when we're increasing it, it's time for them to go in preparation for a big brake kit.
So the lines are off the turbo, we've dropped the oil, we've dropped the coolant down. At this point, the turbo is going to come off. 4 bolts, is that right?
Yeah, yep, 4 volts.
Then that's going to come off, and then we get our big turbo, which is the same housing, but it is a big turbo. I'll go through that with you shortly. Then that's going to go on, the exhaust is going to go on, then the car can come back down, the brakes and suspension will get done at some stage, and then we move on to the front for the front mount and the intake, because that's going to happen when the car is down.
While the car's on the hoist with the wheels off, I'm taking the opportunity to install some performance lowering springs. These will give a nice drop of around 10 to 15 mils on all sides, while still retaining daily drivability. Meanwhile, Marty has worked out something absolutely incredible. Our favourite Ryobi bendy light perfectly attaches to a Golf bonnet. It's almost like they knew. We're removing the 5-year-old and thoroughly toasted battery, which we'll be replacing later. We also need to remove the battery tray so we've got better access to the piping underneath. With the front suspension loosened off, we need to lift the car up, so we're going to move on to the rear springs. I've got to say, there is nothing better than working with people who are at the top of their game. You can learn so much by working on a car with them, and I'm really grateful to have the experience.
Don't give up and don't give in. When they knock you down, get on your feet and call my name, and I will find you.
The rear springs are done, so now half our car is officially lowered. But now it's an exciting time because the factory turbo is ready to come out. Thank you for your long and loyal service, but you will no longer be required.
So this is the factory turbo. It's just come off the car, and we're replacing it with a Revo IS38 ETR, which is a direct bolt-on replacement, which is amazing because it uses all of the same piping and all of the same exhaust stuff, except we are doing a turbo muffler delete, but we'll get to that afterwards. Now this here is a modified version of the IS38, which is the housing that comes on the car, but this one's been modified and it's got billet wheels, shafts, goodness in here that's been upgraded, and that is going to give us 45% more flow and capable of making over 500 horsepower. 500 horsepower from a 2-litre Golf. It's crazy.
The Revo compressor and turbine housings have been CNC reprofiled to match larger wheels, a stronger shaft and a bespoke heat shield. Our new turbo has a billet backplate, larger bearing housing, specifically designed bearing system and reinforced thrust bearing. The larger compressor wheel is machined from solid billet aluminium with longer blades and tapered tips, and the turbo also features an integrated recirculation system to avoid the compressor going into surge. And best of all, it'll bolt on into the factory position with the exact same plumbing.
So this next part of the turbo conversion is the factory muffler, turbo muffler delete. Can you explain to me what's going on there?
Basically just to reduce spool noise and turbo noises in the car, Volkswagen fit a turbo muffler, the snout, just to shut it up. Revo sell a delete, which basically just we're putting into the new turbo, and it's just going to create less turbulence in the airflow and make us more boost, pretty much.
So the only function of this is just to quieten down the turbo noise.
Pretty much, like it's
ridiculous.
Just, yes.
Ridiculous.
I don't know why you'd want that in the first place.
All right, so we're swapping basically from that
to this.
To that. So this has got some baffles in it.
Yeah.
And this is just a straight
through.
pipe.
That's it.
You felt a disturbance in the veg force.
Hang on.
Hi, mate.
We need to swap some OEM parts from our original turbo onto our new turbo, and then we're back to the car to remove the steering rack, and then we can finish off installing the lowered springs on the front of the car. Usually when changing springs, you'd need to use a spring compressor, but in our case, there's hardly any tension on these, so we're doing them on the floor. But if you're not sure, always go for the safer option.
Push me harder.
This is a matter of the only having one job, and of these 3 bolts, there's now only 2, because one of them has fallen into the abyss that is the inside of this car. That actually sounds to me like that's just hitting the inner guard, this plastic guard. And I reckon if I take this plastic guard out, I'm going to find it. Yep. I got him.
Unreal.
There he is. It's the little wins, really, isn't it?
100%.
With the front springs now installed, our car has been successfully lowered, so we can lift it up and move on to installing our big brake kit.
So when your car's going that fast, of course, you want to explore brake options, so we are doing the Revo Big Brake Kit. These are 6-pot calipers. You can get these in a couple of different colors. You can get red or blue. I got black because, of course, trying to stay with the sleeper kind of look. But this kit comes with the brake fluid. It comes with braided lines. And then underneath all of this, it's almighty and huge, is 380mm rotors, vented, absolutely huge. Is going to make sure that we chop any Evos that come our way.
This brake kit includes huge 380mm rotors that are 2-piece floating disc and hat design, with internal cooling vanes to help dispel heat. I've also got progressive 6-piston calipers, a single-piece aluminium monoblock design. We'll also be installing performance pads and stainless steel braided lines, which is a great upgrade over the factory rubber lines. But before we get into that, it's turbo time. This is a monumental part of the build, because it's this magical unicorn air pump that's really going to give the Golf the chance it needs when it comes time to battle a legit supercar. Yes, we have high hopes for what is essentially a daily driven Golf, but unlike 10 years ago with our last Golf project, this time we're doing it properly. And with that, the turbo's in, so while Paulie plums it up, we're moving on to brakes. The brakes are on, but peeling the backing off the brake pads, not as easy as it seems. Eventually we get there, and now the calipers can be installed on the car. Now that the brakes are installed, we need to make sure the ECU doesn't throw a fault code.
So Volkswagens actually have a brake pad sensor. Now, if you have a look in here, if I pull this out, there's actually a sensor built into the brake pad, and that is to let you know when your brake pads need to be changed. Now, because our new aftermarket kit doesn't have that, we're probably going to be throwing fault codes. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to chop that, and then basically just create a loop here, get the wire, loop it back on itself, cover it in heat shrink, seal it up, and then plug that in, and then the computer will think that the brakes are awesome, because they are. So at the moment we're just swapping out the factory brake lines for some braided units that go with our mad, epically big new brake kit.
11mm.
Thanks, bro.
We've had an absolutely huge day. We've removed the factory wheels, brakes, exhaust, battery and airbox, and installed our lowered springs, big brake kit, braided lines, and most importantly, our new upgraded turbo. And we've also listened to Marty talk about his Evo all day, which is an achievement in itself. Next, we've got to do the exhaust, intake, front mount, fuel pumps, piping, new wheels, tyres, and of course, our retune. And that'll all be on the next episode of Mighty Car Mods as the ultimate golf supercar project continues.